Hello everybody and welcome back to another one of those videos where I talk about updates on Dwarf Fortress coming from Toady1 and Kitfox. This is a pretty major one as it is a release. This is a beta branch release for Adventure Mode, meaning Adventure Mode is now playable. Sort of. In this video, I'm going to be reading the Kitfox blog post from earlier today talking about the state of Adventure Mode and what this beta is aiming to achieve. And then I will read Tarn's blog post, which covers everything that is currently in the release and things that are missing. And then I will just kind of give you my impressions after playing it for 11 hours straight, as well as some time beforehand where I was recording tutorials. And to those people who say that I'm scummy for getting the game early and releasing tutorials for it, well, I don't know, live your life, I suppose. Some of us actually have to work for a living. Let's read Kitfox's post. It's time to adventure outside of your fortress. The beta for Adventure Mode is now live on Steam. Create a character and freely roam around the rich simulated world. You have made a home during your Fortress Mode save or start fresh in a newly generated world. If you already own Dwarf Fortress on Steam, you will be able to play the beta. To access the beta, right-click on Dwarf Fortress in your Steam library. Go to the Properties tab, the Betas tab, and then drop down the list and select the Public Beta branch. Don't be confused by the Experimental branch, it's actually behind right now. If you've been playing on the Experimental branch, you have been a version behind for a while. Personally, I feel like the Experimental branch should be removed right now, but that's a different subject. Kitfox also notes that there is a new soundtrack which is available on Bandcamp, Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music, as well as the Steam soundtrack. I've already bought it on Bandcamp. I will link Bandcamp and Spotify in the description of this video if you would like to check it out. And this is the caveat that I really wish was more broadcast at the beginning of this announcement for this release, which is keep in mind, this is very much a beta and still in active development. There are features from Classic Adventure Mode and planned new features that have not made their way to the Steam version yet. We will be updating the beta frequently with hot fixes and new menus and audio and art, as well as fixing the inevitable bugs. Please send in your reports so that they can get squished. And then I will leave their FAQ up on the screen here while I talk for a second. Something has bothered me a little bit about this release. Leading up to this release, we knew that it would be a beta, and we knew that there would be some things missing. And we weren't quite positive exactly to the extent of what was and what was not going to be in the beta. But this is very much a beta in the definition of the word, not a marketing beta. And I wish that this was made a little bit clearer earlier on. I know some people have already referred to it as being disappointing, purely based off of the lack of information distributed before this was released. I really wish that we got these posts earlier on, and I really wish that the information that I'm about to read that was posted by Tarn was also posted maybe a week ago, so that people like myself and maybe even writers could state that this is very much a bug testing beta, and something that's going to have features slowly added over the coming weeks. Regardless though, what's there seems relatively stable outside of some rather repeatable crashes, which is pretty Dwarf Fortress typical, unfortunately. But generally these major bugs get ironed out pretty quickly once they're spotted, and I do have faith that improvements will be made in short order. Let's read Tarn's post. Tarn writes, "We posted an Adventure Mode beta over on Steam, and there are lots of good bits to it, but some missing bits as well. We're slowly rolling it out this time, while still letting more people test it out and have some fun. A lot of the Adventure Mode experience is there. You can currently, in the released beta, create a party, in a character generation, visit your old forts, retire, unretire, get NPC companions, take quests, fight monsters with various melee wrestling and ranged options, set fires, tell stories, and travel the world. Portraits are available for dwarves, humans, elves, goblins, and kobolds, minus some clothing variations, and animal people with no items, and necromancer experiments with no items. These portraits are in both modes. So if you play either Fortress Mode or Adventure Mode, you will see these portraits." And he continues with, "So there's fun to be had, but there's quite a bit more to do before we do the full launch. Non-exhaustively. They need to clean up crash and bug issues, etc., which is already being worked on. Quest log in the information screen, butchering and crafting, the ability use from necromancy to pet animal to spit. Meaning it's very difficult to chop down trees currently. However, you can chop down trees by right-clicking on trees, but there's nothing you can actually do with them beyond that point, so don't worry too much about that. Composing music and writing songs, motion and attack indicators, which are very important for combat and actually make combat quite difficult to read right now. Building interactions, levers, and doors. Doors, specifically if they're locked and need to be picked, can break the game right now. Levers, I haven't tried pulling one because I haven't seen one. The wrestle button currently doesn't work, however, wrestling is an option once you're already in combat. Stealth and vision arcs, which is a bit sad that that's not there currently. Someone was asking about that in my chat earlier. Better UI for stuff like going through hatches and over ramps. Their UI for stuff like that does work, but it's just kind of janky and feels placeholder-ish, for lack of a better term. It is usable, though. Some other info, like movement and speed and encumbrance, which is something I dearly miss already, and tracking and odor and weather and light and time information, which basically, like, at night it's supposed to get dark and the game's supposed to become visibly different. Basically, it gets like a blue sheen over it in Classic, so that's currently missing. Some travel map stuff like visible armies and zooming and highlights. There's also a repeatable crash, at least at the time of recording, where if you discover a cave or a site in the overworld map, your game almost always crashes. Minimap and map inventory currently aren't there, and trading and bartering, like, nothing. It's nothing. The town shops are generally just a mess, and I tend to agree with this, yes. Assuming false identities, which, again, is currently coming soon. Full personality customization. That one, I think, is something that can leave a little bit longer because most people will have a difficulty with that anyways, but it is something that needs to be updated. Graphics and audio that didn't make it in for the initial release. Now that I'm kind of curious about. I'm curious what audio needs to work its way in. Get classic conversions for the new buttons, etc., and the new stuff. Chosen mode with deities, town improvements, and dungeon improvements and healing options and so forth. I wonder if dungeon improvements and town improvements and all that, well, actually, I assume that they're going to need a new world generated, but worth noting. I will try and confirm that as soon as I can. As we mentioned before, cabin building is a larger interface project, so that'll come with the update after the full launch. So my impressions of the Adventure Mode beta thus far, after playing about 11 hours of it on stream today, and yesterday and the day before playing a bunch as well while editing tutorials. I have to say that Adventure Mode, it's still there. All the bits and pieces are there. Survival is difficult as you can't butcher animals that you kill. However, you can steal food with absolutely no repercussions from any location that happens to have food. And if you are lucky enough to be playing in the midsummer or fall, fruits can be harvested from trees and food can be harvested from the ground. Survival is not that difficult, aside from the caveats of possible starvation. It's also worth noting that apparently Putnam fixed poisons in Dwarf Fortress at some point, which makes it so that regardless of what you are, even if you're a dwarf, if you drink more than like 2 glugs of alcohol in a day, you can actually give yourself alcohol poisoning pretty easily, so be a little bit careful with the booze, even if you're a dwarf in Adventure Mode. I think that all in all, the UI design and layouts for Adventure Mode are pretty snazzy. I think it plays quite well. If you're used to the old controls, you'll feel quite at home here. If you like the new interface for Fortress Mode, I think it shouldn't be too difficult to pick up. The main issues and caveats I have for this are, if you've never played Adventure Mode before and are looking for an easy, streamlined way of getting into Adventure Mode, you might want to wait a while, because currently the Demigod mode, which is called Chosen, doesn't actually have any implementation right now, and that's supposed to be their tutorial mode, per se. Dwarf Fortress's Adventure Mode difficulties are a little bit obtuse, meaning that easy doesn't actually make the game any easier. It just allows you to skip some grinding, because it gives you more skill points to start with. It is still an awesome way to explore the world, and I will be playing more of it in the coming days. And I'll also be releasing some videos of it. If you want to kind of get an idea of what it's like to play, follow this YouTube channel and I'll do my best to give you some examples. Overall, it's a hell of a beta, and I genuinely wish that there was a bit more of this list posted in advance of what they thought wouldn't make it into this release. But at the same time, I'm happy to help report bugs and help get this thing pushed through the door. Have you been playing Adventure Mode? What's your impressions of the beta? Let me know down in the comments section. I'm still working on tutorials, so I won't be sleeping much in the next few days. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. I'm gonna go drink some water now, and I hope to see you in the next one.